Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pash On Podcast. Let's get started with your host, Brian Pash.
Hi, this is Brian Pash, and welcome to another podcast. On today's show, I want to challenge dealers and marketing professionals to rethink their retargeting strategy. Now, before we move ahead with the recommended strategy, let's set some base ground rules. Number one, retargeting means that after a consumer visits a website, an advertiser could follow them to other properties that support advertising. Retargeting strategies in the automotive industry include static banners, banners that have dynamic product inventory. So, for example, if someone was looking at an orange Jeep Wrangler, the retargeting banner could actually show that photo of the vehicle that they looked at. And video. So video can be used to follow a consumer who's watching something on YouTube or an embedded YouTube video on any website. And there's millions of them. Retargeting for social media is very similar. Using Facebook or Twitter retargeting pixel, you can follow someone who's visited your website on social media platforms. You could follow them with a static image offer. You can follow them with a carousel ad. You could follow them with a video. You get the idea. Retargeting is a way to keep your brand or your product top of mind. Now, before we dive into the automotive application, I just want you to know that some of the largest and most successful retailers use retargeting. For example, if you don't have any experience with dynamic retargeting banners, go to Macy's and shop in their homewares department. Take a look at an orange, La Crusette pot. Take a look at a spatula. Take a look at a Califon pan set. And over the next day or two, you will see those exact products that you looked at following you around on the internet on certain websites. Maybe you go to the Weather Underground. Maybe you go to CNN. Maybe you go to Sports Illustrated. The idea is these companies allow Macy's to follow their website visitors with dynamic product ads. For most dealers, retargeting is part of their digital strategy, and that's why I wanted to cover this in today's podcast. For most dealers, they do not understand how the retargeting is done. They're just told Google recommends it. So whether they're spending $500 a month or $1,000 a month, they're really not sure what strategy is being deployed. Now, of course, there's some specialty companies that do dynamic product banners, or those dynamic product banners are part of a normal advertising package from a CDK or a Cox Automotive. But I want to challenge dealers to ask their agency, by what criteria are we retargeting? For most dealers, the answer will be, well, we retarget everyone. Anybody who comes to your website is worth retargeting. And that's the first point I want to take on. I do not believe that dealers should be retargeting everyone that comes to their website. If somebody comes to the dealer's homepage and does nothing, when I say does nothing, meaning they don't even scroll down the page, they don't click on anything, they have no engagement, they stay on that website a few seconds and leave, I have no idea what that consumer wanted. They actually did not have any actions that would allow me to infer intent. And maybe they clicked on that ad or came to the website accidentally. So why would I follow them with more money if the first time they visited or the second time they're doing nothing? So the first thing I want to challenge dealers to consider, shouldn't we be retargeting consumers based on what they do on your website, not what page they landed on? Because you see, it's a compounding error. If somebody generates an ad, let's just say it's a specific used car, the consumer clicks on that ad, whether intentional or accidental, is taken directly to the VDP and does nothing and leaves. I have no idea if that vehicle really was of interest. If the consumer scrolled through the photos or swiped on their mobile phone through the photo gallery, if the consumer scrolled down to read the comments or features, if the consumer played with the payment calculator, you get the idea. Those would indicate to me that that consumer had interest in that vehicle. Wouldn't it make sense then to avoid retargeting people who take no action on the page that they landed on? Otherwise, you could be throwing more money after a bad ad action. The second thing I want you to understand is that Google Analytics makes it very, very easy for dealers to create custom audiences based on consumer intent. Now, your agency or your website platform may be telling you they do that automatically, but it's very difficult for anybody to audit really what they're doing. And here's the reason why. When you look at retargeting campaigns, the standard ones that are retargeting everyone who comes to the dealer's website, the actual engagement when they do click on the retargeting banner is very low, meaning you're spending a lot of money and getting very little return engagement. Yeah, you get clicks, but those people are hardly doing anything, and then you wonder, were these accidental clicks? You've always seen these websites that are so filled with banner ads, and they kind of trick people to click on things, maybe to go to the next page, and wow, you end up clicking on an ad. We've all done it. So if you want to really make sure your marketing dollars are being effectively used, I don't want to retarget a consumer with a vehicle in a dynamic product ad unless they do something on the VDP. Meaning just simple things like scrolling down to read about the car or looking at one or two photos. That shows intent and interest. Dealers don't have unlimited funds for advertising. So why would you waste 20, 30, 50, 60% of your retargeting budget and guess what people really wanted? You know, when you look at the data, about 25% of all website visits do nothing on the dealer's website. They may come to the home page, and that's typically the number one page that consumers enter on. And 25% of those people just will do nothing. They won't even scroll. And so if you think about that as a national average, we should be more tactical about how we retarget. If your website provider supports the PCG specification for Google Analytics, and many website providers, you can just call and ask them to turn on the events. In that specification, we're tracking. Did they look at photos? Did they play a video? Did they download the Carfax? Did they download the window sticker? Did they play with the payment calculator? Did they request a lead? All of those actions are sent into Google Analytics. And then you can create custom audiences. For example, you can create an audience of people who looked at vehicle photos. That's a very engaged audience. Think about that. People who came to your website and look at photos, it could be only 10, it could be 15% total, but those are really actively looking at vehicles right now. Wouldn't you want to be pulling that list aside and doing some testing on retargeting banners on Google instead of just mixing everyone into the same pool? You could do other things, like did people look at a service page and click on the schedule a service button? Maybe reminding them about your service hours. Meaning, I don't want people to be retargeted just because somebody landed them on a service page. Maybe all they need to do is call and see if their car was ready. Why would I spend any money on an existing customer who's just calling to pick up their car? But dealers are doing it because they're not tracking engagement. For example, recently I spoke at a Nissan Southeast Digital Conference, and they were talking about the new Kicks. And how do you prepare your marketing strategy for a new model launch? Well, I said, well, listen, if you're tracking engagement, you could be looking at creating a list of all people who are engaging in your inventory with compact SUVs, new or used. And if you say, yes, this Kicks is in that low-cost compact SUV market, well, now you have first-party data based on engagement of consumers locally who came to your website and looked at your used inventory of similar products. You see, the idea is dealers can be more tactically involved with their digital marketing strategy if they're not throwing away that valuable engagement data. Dealers and marketing managers who are listening to today's podcast, verify that Google Analytics is set up properly. That means all 4 conversion goals are working: lead forms, phone calls, chats, and text. Engagement tracking is turned on, so you have dozens of different activities that the consumer is doing on your website being recorded in Google Analytics. And then create custom audiences based on engagement, and then share those audience with the AdWords account that is connected to analytics. Think about that. I would rather spend money retargeting an engaged shopper list than just everyone who came to my website. And, well, that's why being a student of this industry is so important. There's so much waste. The average dealer has about 30 to 40% digital waste in their budget if they're not looking at consumer engagement tracking. As soon as dealers see consumer engagement tracking data, man, the lights go on. Wow, this campaign is driving traffic to my website that they're doing hardly anything. And that data is really hidden because dealers are focusing on cost per click and click-through rate and time on site and number of page views, but those are really false indicators of success. So take the time to ask your agency how they're retargeting. What tools are at your disposal with their technology? Then make sure that you narrow down who you're targeting. You can create your own custom audience in Google Analytics for your agency to use, or maybe your agency can do something similar already. But under no circumstances should we be blindly retargeting anybody who comes to the website. And we should not be using dynamic product retargeting on pages that the consumer never interacted on. I don't care how many VDPs a consumer landed on. I care about the ones that they showed interest in, that they were engaged in, so that I can present the appropriate ad at the proper time to sell more cars in a digital age. Thanks so much for listening to today's podcast, and I look forward to spending more time with you in an upcoming podcast.